I'm Carolyn Giardina. Welcome to the Hollywood Reporter Cinematographer Shortcuts. I'm here with Natasha Braier, Rodrigo Prieto, and César Charlone. Welcome. César, you've worked with Fernando before.
Yes.
And in this case, to tell the story on the sets and the locations, you took inspiration from Michelangelo and other artists. Would you describe that process and how you planned it with your director?
Yes, we were researching in which way we would go. The natural thing would be, okay, we're shooting in churches and temples. So in this way, okay, which way can we go that is more honest to the subject that we're talking about? And, thinking of how the actors would behave. And so we said, why we should try to integrate them to the place they are. Because it's such a delicate subject that is in between reality and fiction, because, we don't know if that dialogue happened or didn't happen.
Sure.
We wanted to be as naturalistic as possible. Researched quite a lot into Michelangelo and Botticelli and, the way they didn't light, they just flattened. Considering that I had the possibility in post-production of coloring and painting with the colors.
Right.
I proposed to Fernando, and we did some tests, and I showed him, and we went in that direction in what I would call a flat light, front light, kind of what we always would say is wrong, flat light, never, side light or whatever. No, flat light, and let the colors help us separate and talk.
Interesting. And Natasha, in your film Honey Boy, you're working with a lead actor, Shia Labeouf, who also wrote the story based on a very personal experience. What was the dynamic like to work with him?
Well, it was, the most challenging thing was to kind of create a space and hold a container for him to be very safe as he was going through this very challenging therapeutic process almost, because he is playing the role of his father, and he's portraying, the situations in his childhood that really traumatized him. So he's really going to the deeper wounds, and he's doing there, in front of all of us. So as a cinematographer, for the first time, I also had to consider a lot the emotional part for the actors, because it was beyond like a method actor going into emotion. This was like a deep process for him. Most of the time he would not rehearse, he would not even tell us what he's going to do, where he's going to be in the space, because he would just figure it out in the moment. So we had to be very clever in how to set up the space and prepare for every possible configuration without stopping, without invading him, without him even noticing that we are here, so that he can go through his process.
Mm-hmm. And you were saying in some ways with using dimmers, you almost lit in real time, right?
Yeah, it felt like a jamming session, because he would lead, we would not know, we had ideas like, yeah, obviously he's gonna be in the corner and the kid is gonna be in the bed, but he would always come and do something different. So I distributed always like practical lights that were LEDs inside, like we made them and replaced them, and I had dimmers. So I was in the monitor with all my dimmers, like literally like a DJ, and depending on what he was doing, I would just dim and say, okay, now that's gonna be the backlight, this one I need to dim it down, and just do it on the spot. Usually during the take, because many times there was not even rehearsals, so it was full adrenaline, like you had to make the decisions on the moment, but it was really like dancing, really like dancing around him. And the good thing is, Alma as a director, she's really interested in emotion. She's not interested in like conventional narration. So it didn't matter if we jumped the line or if there's not exact continuity from one take to the other. What mattered to her, which was great because it's what matters to me, was, the emotion in every moment, just be in the exact place where you need to be to support that. Right. So we could also be quite brave and bold and try things, and then in the next take, Shai is trying something totally different, and we are trying something totally different. So it really felt like a jamming session around him.
Okay. And Rodrigo, in your film, about the first half of the film, you had digitally created Robert De Niro and some of the other key performers. You needed a special rig for that. Would you describe your filmmaking process?
Yes, this is a movie really about time, about passage of time, and what actually, and at the end of the day, what matters or what doesn't. And the story spans decades, and of course that meant that the characters, the actors, have to start young and all the way to their near death, right? So it's easier to, with makeup, make someone look older, but it's really hard to make them look younger. So we had to use visual effects to, with the help of CGI technology, make them look younger. So for that, we did have to create a 3-camera rig that basically, for each angle, so the main camera with the central one, with what they would call witness cameras on the side of it. And that visual effects would use all that information to create the CGI versions. I wanted to convey the passage of time visually, so that since the story goes back and forth, so that immediately the audience could feel that this is a memory, or this is the present, or more or less have a feeling of where they are. So in essence, the movie goes from a very colorful look, which is Kodachrome, through Ektachrome, which is still colorful but a little different in the way it reproduces color, to a very desaturated feel towards the end. So in a way, the characters, when they're remembering what happened, it's like the memory of the photography of, like the memories we all have of our childhoods. And in the present, they're reckoning, let's say, at their moment, they're getting near death. All this romanticism of their memories is gone. So now the color is gone too. So that was a very important part of the design of the movie.
Mm-hmm. And what was it like for actors like Robert De Niro and Al Pacino to work in this way? How did it affect them?
We made it so that it was the least intrusive as possible. I mean, 3 cameras for each, setup is a big rig, and for all the dialogue scenes we shot with 2 angles simultaneously. So that meant 6 cameras. Immediately they got used to it and embraced it, and we just worked through it.
Natasha, there's still a limited number of women who are serving as directors of photography. How did you break into the business?
I went to film school, and after film school, I just started to do, a lot of short films for free and music videos, and like that slowly I built up relationships, like a network of directors and people that I work with, until a few years later I had my first break on, very, very tiny feature film, which went to festivals, and then people saw it, and that got me other films, and I was quite lucky to get started like that.
Overall, how would all of you describe the state of diversity and inclusion in your field?
Well, I think that it's something that's evolving and just in the world. I do see in crews more and more diversity. Sometimes you do have to push it, and I've participated in projects where it's not exactly a requirement, but it's hoped and expected that you include a greater diversity in your crew, which sometimes is tricky because indeed it's not quite there, the depth of possibilities in terms of crew of different genders and race and nationalities and all that, but that's, you sometimes need to, you were talking about seeding these things, and sometimes you have to push it a little bit extra so that then, later it'll be simpler because there will be automatically more diversity because there will be more people of every shape and form, working. But right now it's not quite there, so we do need to push it a little bit.
Yeah.
Are you seeing more diverse and varied stories available to you, and certainly with streaming services available?
I think so. I mean, I guess we all read a lot of scripts and then, deciding what movie you do, or what project, but it's always what's closest to your heart. But I do see that with the mediums that are now available in terms of distribution and streaming and cinema, of course, there is a bigger market for specific stories of people and what they go through, and just the diverse stories. So I do see that there is that, and it's an exciting time because there is so many different possibilities in terms of storytelling.
Mm-hmm. And maybe stories that might not have been made
Exactly.
a few years ago, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel we are ageist. I'm dealing with a subject at the moment, and we're considering that in the gender thing, we are like we were with slavery like 200 years ago, when you would think that it was natural and you would accept certain things. I think today we're starting to realize that we accept certain things that, no, that shouldn't be like that. Mm-hmm. So I think we're pretty far away still. We have to advance a lot and listen a lot.
I like what you say about listening, because I think that's the key, because also we can assume, what a certain group of people will want, but it's not necessarily the case, and as you say, as machos, sometimes you're like, okay, so now how do I behave? And it's just a matter of really listening, and paying attention to how other people feel. And that's part of storytelling too, it's really trying to get into the hearts and emotions of characters, which is, are based on real human emotions, so.
As filmmakers, we have 10 times more responsibility for the kind of stories we choose. We can only do 1 or 2 movies a year. And I personally feel now that everything I do, it has to be really part of this revolution of deprogramming our old ways of thinking and doing so that we can create a better society. And part of that programming was done by us, by Hollywood, by the film industry, not even only Hollywood. So I think now we have awareness of all of that, and that makes us really accountable because we have the cameras, we have the power. What's the next story we're going to tell? And if we don't take a story that is pushing people's programming and reprogramming that and make us go further as human beings, we're staying on the same place. And right now, I feel like staying on the same place is almost as bad as going backwards. Like the times are urgent and we have that big responsibility.
Last question, would each of you share a lesson that you learned earlier in your careers?
You only know what's good 2 days after you've shot it. So I joke, when I give lectures, I joke that my thing is not quality, it's quantity. Opposite to what, when they say, I go for quality, not for quantity. But in my case, I prefer quantity on set to have quality in the editing room. Because, you never know, you don't know. When you're shooting, you're so involved with so many things that you only are gonna know if what you shot was good. As I joke, afterwards, when you've had a shower, you're sitting in a comfortable chair with air conditioning and looking at the screen and said, that's the one.
Interesting. Natasha, what about you?
I think probably the main one is to listen to my guts and not so much to this. I think from very early on, I try to have those kind of decisions and, resonate with something from my heart. I love this story, I feel I need to tell it, and then really listen to hear. But sometimes you have a bit of conflicts because something here is saying something opposite. You should do that, you should be safer, you should put this fill light or whatever. And I think early on I've learned that the only thing that was right was the stomach and the instinct, and then just respect that and don't mess around too much with the logics of things.
Okay. Rodrigo.
I guess so many things, but one would be, I used to, when I was finishing film school and starting, to shoot whatever it might be, movies, and I would read a script and I would immediately think of how I was going to shoot it. As I was reading the script and taking down notes, okay, this could be this type of light or this type of texture, and I was really obsessing. And little by little, I realized that all that will come. So I've let it go. And I really try to read scripts from a purely emotional level, and not even resist the temptation of imagining it visually. So just feel it as if I'm reading a novel or whatever. Of course, you see things on your mind's eye, it's impossible to avoid it, but I see things not from a photography perspective, or I try not to. Later I will, after I've discussed ideas with the director, after scouting, after all these things. So for me, that was a revelation, and I think it's helped me enormously. Also communicating with a director, because then you're able to really listen, as opposed to come in and
With your eyes.
this is what I want to do with it. You then see, okay, what do you think? What are you imagining? And you listen, you then, based on that, you start, okay, now we bring into focus, and this is where we're going.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Really glad you could be here today.